Well, greetings and aloha. What's going on? It's Mike's from LiveMyAssUp.com. I'm still here in Koh Phangan, and obviously, or maybe not obviously, maybe it will be obvious to you once we have this little bit of discussion that arguably one of the hottest topics right now, if you are someone who really wants to get to Thailand. Dave, good to see you. Thank you so much for coming by. Always good to see you, my friend. Hopefully you brought pizza for everybody. Mariano, thank you so much for coming by. And Scuba Tom, you guys are great, man. I'm totally stoked. I apologize for a couple of things, not the least of which is I forgot to grab something to drink. So I will do that now. But trust me, on the sunscreen. Here we go. You know, like when you're in the hotel, like they give you 2 free bottles of water every day, right? And usually I put it in the fridge. So I got that going for me. It's been a pretty big day. Got the whole 2 bottles of water thing going on. Okay, so let me first say that I'm using a $160 laptop, and I'm using the hotel's Wi-Fi, which has been pretty good. But if I get some imperfection, well, then it will just be that. It will be imperfection. But I would hopefully invite you to focus on the content that we at the Cool Kids Table will talk about this evening. Which, of course, is the #1 priority, ladies and gentlemen, of getting Mariano over here, and as well as Scuba Tom. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm also using the microphone that's inside of the Logitech cam. Anyway, all technical stuff aside, I think you guys have obviously experienced enough imperfection with me that, quite frankly, you're probably used to it by now. Oh, Dave just put up a video on how he makes his pizza, as well as making banana bread. Dude, you're a star. Look at you, man. Put a ring on his finger, and he just like sits at home and wow, Mr. Mom. Good for you, dude. That's awesome. Good vibes to you too, as well, Aztec. Okay, so I titled this video Info and Speculation because even if all I ever did, which pretty much is impossible for me, is just give you data and fact, I would argue that, but I'll just speak for myself, but I would argue that most people, they give you data, they give you fact, and then they give you their opinion. And I am definitely guilty of that. That said, I come to these things not to just talk at myself, at my camera. I like to think I talk with you, and thus we have the Cool Kids Table. And so I would like your opinion as well on, specifically, the new special tourist visa that Thai immigration has come up with. And it's pretty easy to just go into YouTube and type like even STV, quite frankly, special tourist visa, and you'll get some absolutely accurate data from a number of sources. What I haven't seen is anyone who has referenced the information that comes from long stay. And long stay is basically a service. I want to say it's a little bit analogous to the elite program, okay? So the elite program is a company, like outside of the government, basically, but very connected to it. And for the most part, people just think it's, okay, well, it's just like a really expensive long stay visa. But in truth, it started out as, hey, let's provide like a wicked VIP experience because we're Thailand and we have the ability to not just allow people to go to the beach. We invented 6-star resorts, right? And so therefore, like, look, we can give these people an amazing experience. But for the most part, I think people always sort of refer to the elite program pretty much because of the visas you get with them, as well as the customer service and that sort of thing. But of course, there's like there's the ability to get, you know, limo rides if you get a certain stage of it. But my point to bringing that topic up is that with the elite program, it's essentially a service that is taking care of all of this. And the nice thing about it is they give you a checklist. And they're like, look, give us these things and that sort of thing. Now, the long stay Mariano, dude, Meg, you know what's funny? Is I haven't had, the last 2 smoothies I've had, Whoa! What is going on here? What do you guys like? Flopping it on the table? Oh yeah, sure. 3.45 pounds. How you doing there, buddy? How about $2 Australian? Thank you very much. You guys are so cool. I really appreciate that. That's neat. The last two smoothies I've had, it's been carrot, pineapple, and kiwi I had tonight. And before that, for some reason I've been on this carrot thing. I had carrot and banana and pineapple, I think. And, so far so good. And just so you know, those are 30 baht. And so therefore they're approximately 98 cents. so that's pretty good. I'm here in my bungalow still at Wang Sai Resort. And after staying here 6 or 7 nights, I went up again and I said, well, I'm going to stay one more night. So instead of charging me 700 baht, she charged me 650 baht. So now it's gone from $22.45 a night to $20.83 a night. So therefore, I'm saving my pennies and I'm buying smoothies. And thank you very much, Mariano, and as well as Aztec, you guys, for some smoothie money, because I can tell you right now, I will usually make sure that I figure out where to get rice, sometimes where to get noodles, but usually where to get decent rice, a good coffee, meaning fresh brewed, because for the most part I'm a 3-in-1 guy here back at the, I wake up in the morning and I push this button, which then heats water for me. And boy, let me tell you, all you other guys, I don't say, yeah, so Roy's here. But man, if you grew up with 120 volts and you come over and there's 220, dude, water heats up at light speed. Love it. So that's pretty cool. Let me make sure I jumped ahead because I wanted to thank you guys. As I saw, it just really popped up. So again, thank you very much. Thank you for the belly laughs, Dave. And thank you all for saying hello to one another and welcoming each other to the Cool Kids table. Roy says, all we can say, it's a start, indeed. 1,200 people a month isn't going to do much for anyone. Well, it's going to do something, right? I mean, again, it's a move in the right direction. Is it going to bring in a ton of money? No. But again, I really want to praise Thailand for, having the folk. And now, again, I'm not affected financially by this, okay? So it's a lot easy for you to say, Mike, right? There's really nothing wallet-wise, that's basically been decreased in my life because of all of this. The only disappointment, quite frankly, is emotionally. Gracie is not here and cannot come here easily, immediately. But I'm working on it. We both have a plan. So when I heard about this long stay thing, much like you guys did, when I heard about this special tourist visa, like all of you probably have already watched at least one, if not 70, read reports, blogs, videos, that sort of thing on it. And so therefore, a lot of the data that you have already, I don't believe I need to regurgitate, not the least of which is the report from Roy, which is 1,200 people a month, maximum, that they're stating right now. And again, like if you've ever, this isn't your first time watching a video nor discussing Thai immigration, I'm quite certain. And so therefore you realize that pretty much every Tuesday, in other words, discussion can happen pretty much on a Wednesday night all the way through Tuesday morning until the cabinet votes, right? And so like there can be, anyway, so that's sort of the info/speculation. And there's a couple statements that I've read that one could argue are wishful thinking, not the least of which is 1,200 people per month will bring in, I believe, what I heard, maybe some little bit of poetic license after that, but for the most part, 1 billion baht. And, if you divide 1 billion by 1,200, you're like, what? Each tourist is going to bring in how, right? So anyway, but to that point, long stay is a service that you pay to basically help you with the current type of visas that are available. I'm doing really well, Andy. Andy, thank you so much for coming by regularly. You're like one of the regulars, man. I love seeing everybody's name. But it's neat to see newer people. Anyway, so I think you've been coming around, Andy, for maybe just under 6 months, right? Anyway, thank you again. Thank you to the 10 people watching, and this is hardly my normal time, but I've been getting some communication with the long stay people. So here's what I'm going to do. What are you talking about, Tom? Don't want to buy a plane ticket, then get the yeah. Oh no, absolutely. You definitely do it in the other order. Again, I'm on my less than awesome laptop. However, what I want to do is I want to share a email with you guys, and I want us to discuss it. And I want to make sure that we can. I don't believe I even need to be here for this. I think basically the more important thing is the email, and so I'm going to turn. All good, right on, Eddie. Very cool. Get a Academy of Dirty. Oh wow, that's a new one. Thank you very much for coming by. You're new to me. Anyway, okay, so here's what I did, just to give you a little bit of background. I watch, and I've promoted her before, a woman, Tiva, whose channel is It's Thai Things. And one of the things that she shared a while ago was this company. They have a website, which is thailongstay.co.th. Okay, and I'll open that up in another browser tab, and with any luck, it won't crash my system. But the point is that I will show you the website and sort of what they offer. And again, hopefully, after seeing it, it will give you sort of an idea of why I'm making the analogy between this and I'm going to share another tab. So just give me a sec. With the Elite program. So here you go. So it's a service, okay? So there we go. And so they offer, you know, things like they will pick you up at the jetway in a golf cart, right? And all that sort of thing. But again, their focus and their sort of reason for instantiation is to help with the current sort of needs that people have in getting over here, okay? So the point is that you go to their services and you will soon see that there are various levels of customer support for, you know, anywhere from, I think it's like 10 or 15,000 baht, basically, you know, so right, so they offer the fast track. They help you with a driver's license when you're over here. At the end of the day, they're like, look, we're going to help you out, and since you're going to be over here long term, then the initial documentation on their website says they basically focus on retirement visas, okay? So, they actually had a little bit more information on their website as far as the services they offered before. And what they seem to have done, and you can see, you know, they work with immigration and they work with, obviously, Tourism Authority of Thailand and that sort of thing. Let me see if going here lists it. They used to have like 3 or 4 different levels, and again, it was like 10, 15,000 baht, and then they had like these little cards that they showed there. Well, clearly they're not doing that any longer. My point is that when they had all that, I sent them an email. And I said, okay, so for the most part, looking at your website, and you guys can go to this yourself, looking at your website, it appears as though you're pretty much just, you know, helping people get their retirement visa. And I said, so therefore, for anyone who is under 50, i.e. my girlfriend Gracie, so that's not ready quickly. Fair enough. Anyway, you guys are chatting in there, so that's awesome. But I wanted to get to this, which I believe is probably likely more important. I emailed them and I said, hey, so what's the deal? How can you help me out with a visa for someone who's under 50? And they pretty much responded and they said, look, we don't know a whole lot right now. And they, in fact, like I said, they removed the various levels from their website. And they said, but where your name is in the sort of the queue. And so with that, I would highly encourage you guys, if you want updates from what I would argue is one of the top, certainly 5 most reliable in English services relative to this, excluding, of course, the Elite program. Just send them an email and you will get on their list, and then you will get emails basically from this address here, which is marketing@thailongstay.com. Let me make sure this is displaying correctly. Okay, it is good. Anyway, so they've been very cordial and actually quite quick in their responses. So they said basically what you probably, they emailed me with information about stuff that you guys have probably already watched videos on, which is they're coming out with this STV visa, and they've just been notified. And they say, you know, they reference obviously the situation administration that's helping this. They said exactly what Roy said, which is like, hey, it's going to bring 1,200 long stay per day. But what I wanted to highlight, I don't think I've seen this anywhere else. 1, 2, 3 charter flights will be allowed to land in Thailand per week. And so let's say it's 3. It's you know, again, they're going to be pretty dense flights if they're going to try and get, you know, 1,200 in, you know, per month, right? I think you also already have heard of this. You must be quarantined for 14 days, which if you've ever, you know, watched any sort of other videos that have accurate data on this, at the end of the day it ends up being 15 days. You get a special tourist visa that basically allows you to stay for 90 days, including the 14-day procedure, and then it can be extended 2 times, obviously, for this, and for a total of 70 days. And again, not a lot of this is like incredibly new, okay? I mean, it is to some people, but for the most part, I think all of you have probably been up to date on this stuff. But I wanted to make it clear that even though it doesn't say it here, it's approximately, it's not approximately, it is what they're proposing as of today. 2,000 baht for the initial one, and then 2,000 baht to extend each time. Again, if you get on their mailing list, you'll also see how they have the forms for the, right here to get the Fit to Fly. I'll put these in the comments afterwards. If you want to get the Fit to Fly certificate, there's a PDF here that you can get filled out. And then here's the beauty, and again, this is really cool right now, right? And I anticipate if it changes, they will absolutely update me via email. So basically, you got to show, look at, I paid for, meaning reserved, you know, I assume, for one of these 14-day quarantine approved places that I can stay, payment and booking confirmation, the medical insurance for $100,000. I think we're all pretty up to date on that. And you need to pass the criminal record check through the Royal Thai Police, which is done in your embassy or consulate in your local country. Basically, I mean, if you're not in your home country, don't forget, you still can go to a Thai embassy or consulate and apply for all of this and do all this work. They've been incredibly cordial. The person that has reached out to me each time, I think I know, their nickname is Flash, and Armage is basically their name. And again, this is the information. I will copy and paste this and put this in the description. I forwarded it off to my buddy Dana, if you know anything, and he and I are going to be talking about this actually tomorrow night during the Bangkok Strange live stream podcast. And I basically just responded, you know, about 4 hours after it came in. I said, hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Do you have a list of the countries that are allowed in? And I said specifically the Philippines, because as you might guess selfishly, I would really like to get Gracie over here. So this is their response. They do not yet have a list of the countries. But here's the cool part, and this is only, again, this is just an hour ago. They were like, hey, we want to get you started on this. And so that's pretty sweet. And so and what's crazy about this is that they're like, give us this information, and there's no discussion of cost. And so again, here's my speculation. My speculation is that in order to really streamline this, so you don't get a whole bunch of people showing up at a consulate or an embassy with basically 85% or even 95% of all the proper paperwork, and then 5% of the wrong paperwork. They're starting it off, and it doesn't look like they're going to charge for it. I'm not saying they won't, and for all I know, he'll respond to me here in 5 minutes and say, "Oh, Mike, by the way, once you give us all this information, we're also going to need 20,000 baht." Fine, whatever. It's no big deal. It's like 600 bucks. And, you know, I've paid how much did I pay? I think I paid $600 before, years and years and years ago, to get a service to get me my my first visa that I got to come into the country in, I want to, for long term, I think it was 2013. So, okay, so here's what I wanted to show you, and I will come back to the stream, and I will get back to your comments right now to the best of my ability. But I wanted to show that to you guys, and I wanted to highly encourage you to go to longstay.co.th and sign up and basically send them an email and get on their mailing list, because I believe that that is a great source for information as well as response. I mean, I asked the guy a question, he responded in less than an hour, which is pretty darn good. Okay, so you guys are like all hanging out at the cool kids table, and it looks like new name again. Oh, I don't know what your previous name was then either, so I apologize for that. Nathan, good to see you, man. Hopefully going to be able to stay for a few months next year. Well, that's the goal with this thing, right? The goal with this thing is you got to stay 3 months. And I actually also inquired about this with somebody, and I said, you know, so what's the deal like if you need to leave? And, you know, again, if you've been through Thailand immigration, you realize that, yeah, you come in and you check into the country. Well, you also check out. And, you know, I mean, if you've overstayed your visa, well, then you're in violation and you get fined immediately right there. You get taken to the side. So I'm quite certain that this is just sort of, you know, the inverse of this. This will be, well, you understayed your visa. You committed to staying here 90 days. That was sort of the deal with us. And I would anticipate then that if it's day 89 or something like that, you know, if it's day 89, there might be a little flexibility. I got to go home. I got to see my mom. I got to, you know, but I mean, if it's day 70 and you're just like, you know what, this whole Thailand thing isn't working out, who knows what the level of accountability is going to be. So I'm just throwing it out there. But everyone that I've spoken with that I believe is basically in the know is like, no, look, dude, it's 90 days. Like, you got to commit ahead of time. And again, going back to that email that I got, they're like, look, dude, here's all the stuff you're going to need to get started. So, yeah, so chartered flights. Now, to be fair, this does not mean that you like open up a NetJets membership and pay them $80,000, right? Or that you basically charter a plane. There are chartered flights, actually, that will be available through Thai Airways. Todd, T.Y. Dorman, you've seen him on here before, he has shared there is a service that he is likely to be using out of Cambodia. And they are similar to this sort of long stay thing, meaning they're a service that's going to put a bunch of stuff together. So long stay, for example, they're going to be like, okay, you got to get the insurance, you got to get the reservation, you got to get your fit to fly, you got to get blah, 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 all of this. And then with that, we will basically help you submit it all into one package, and who knows whether they're going to walk with you or they're just going to respond and say, yes, you have everything, thumbs up, get your butt to the nearest consulate or embassy. But anyway, there are flights that are happening, I believe right now in Cambodia, this company, and if I can go, what I'll do is I'll go back through my emails that Todd sent me, and I will include that in the description once the video is over and being published as well. So you can come back to it and you can go to this thing. But at the end of the day, it's effectively just a travel agency that's helping you with some additional things, not the least of which is booking you on this charter flight. It is not, it appears to be a flight that you can also search for in Google Flights by Thai Airways. But, I'm sorry, so, okay, yes, Thai Airways. However, I apologize. Technically, it's through Thai Smile, okay? So, but Thai Airways Limited, you know, owns that brand too. But the point is that is how you get yourself injected into that charter flight from Cambodia. If you're coming from Los Angeles and you're going through, say, South Korea and you're coming over, let's say for the sake of argument that they're any country they're letting in, what I've heard from most people is that the countries that will be allowed, people who are from the countries that have had no new cases of COVID in the last 60 days. And of course, you could respond and say, okay, Thailand, you guys have had new ones in the last 60 days, so what the hell, right? But I can understand that I can understand why they would put some degree of limitation on that. Will it be 60 days? I don't know. They didn't highlight that in the email that I got from Longstay, and I haven't heard that addressed from anybody else. So, so yeah, so that's what they mean by the chartered one. My problem is we still can't use our passport to fly out of Australia. Right, and so obviously this is the discussion around if you can get out of your country, then right? I mean, so that's like a requirement, obviously. There are places where because I'll give you a great example, right? So my parents, they're Canadian, they have dual citizenship. They're United States citizens, they're Canadian citizens. They were born in Canada. I was born in the United States to Canadian parents. I also have dual citizenship, okay? So I bring that up because as people that live in the U.S. that are U.S. citizens, they also have the need to go to their Canadian consulate in Boston or interface with the Canadian embassy down in Washington, D.C. So, and they can't do that. It's just not open, right? So, like, even though you can leave the United States if you can go somewhere, like, in other words, with that passport, but you can't get to a Thai consulate in the United States. I'm pretty sure the Thai embassy in Washington, D.C. is probably open for some degree of interface with certainly Thai citizens, if not, people that want to, potentially try and come over here and do this fit the fly thing. It might even be open in New York City. But I can tell you that as a few days ago when I spoke with my parents, offices like that are not open in Boston. They're not open in Massachusetts, okay? So again, there's limitations there. So, and I definitely cannot speak to all of them. I have no clue like what's going on in Florida. I have no clue what's going on even in California because I haven't spoken with my buddies in a long time, and I know that they're going through a tough time. So, but that sucks, Nathan. I'm really, I'm sorry to hear that lack of flexibility. Roy says, good luck, Mike. Hopefully you will jump all of the hoops to get your girlfriend to join you soon. Yeah, thank you, Roy. I appreciate that a lot. I think the best course of action is going to continue with the trajectory that she and I are on right now, which is I will be getting a business visa with a work permit. I will be getting it through BOI, which is the Board of Investment, with the startup that I'm a part of, that I'm invested in, that I'm on the board of. And so as part of that new work that I'm going to be doing, and again, look, in case there's any, I'm not working. I don't have a work permit. I'm on a retirement visa and I'm not working. I have not gone to a board meeting yet. I have not participated in any of their software. I haven't, since coming to Thailand, I haven't participated in any of their Amazon Web Services. I don't spin up servers for them, yada, yada, yada. So I'm not working, trust me. But because I get that through the Board of Investment, through the BOI, it is a 2-year visa with a 2-year work permit that then gets renewed for another 2 years. So it's a 4-year commitment. And it allows me to bring in my spouse and my family, essentially. Because they're like, okay, look, we're the Board of Investment, so we want you to either come over and give us a ton of cash, or, quite frankly, we would prefer if you came over and gave us some ideas and innovation and hired Thai people in a technical capacity to be able to forward technology and do this and that sort of thing. So that is the Board of Investment. So with this program, I get to basically roll Gracie in underneath, if you will, my business visa. She also gets a business visa. And this is not some crazy new, oh my God, Mike's only thing. Feel free to, in fact, there's some really good videos that the Board of Investment, as well as Thailand 4.0, both of those sort of organizations in Thailand have produced some really decent videos that describe what they're, in English, right, that describe what they're trying to accomplish. They're trying to go, Thailand 4.0. In other words, Thailand 3.0 is like, okay, we actually manufacture. We have, Thailand 1.0, it's like, look, agriculture, we make rice. Thailand 2.0, okay, we're manufacturing. And then Thailand 3.0, we're actually doing some innovation here. We're manufacturing automobiles and automotive parts and electronics and all of this. Well, now we want to be sort of the originators of this. We want to be the people. This is Thailand 4.0 initiative. We're going to be the innovators of technology. We're not just going to basically put up big buildings and reproduce chips every, they make approximately 12% of the world's tires. We're not just going to manufacture tires. We're potentially going to come up with, the better mousetrap, okay? So again, that's why the Board of Investment is involved here and why they're making it attractive for families, engineers, that sort of thing, to come over to Thailand and to work here and to add value to the Thai economy and, long term. So that is likely how it's going to happen. If for whatever reason that doesn't happen, and again, don't forget, I mean, here's the thing, like Gracie and I are not legally married right now, but of course that was the trajectory anyway, so we're going to do that. And so we just need to figure that out, and then we take that piece of paper and say, okay, and then apparently I just heard from Gracie, what happens when she and I get married is then Euryce becomes my stepdaughter, But then she also becomes basically part of this family, at least in the eyes of the Philippine government. We will likely be getting a U.S. A marriage license from the United States, because it is impossible to have a online marriage valid from the Philippines. You need to physically be next to your partner and physically in front of basically the person that is engaged in approving the marriage, which can be a justice of the peace kind of thing, or they do their mass weddings. If you don't know, so like on Valentine's Day on February 14th in the Philippines, it's historically very common for there to be like a justice of the peace or a priest or something like this in front of thousands of people, like in a giant field, and they're all getting married. So they do these mass marriages because that's like the most popular day, I guess, in the Philippines. Regardless, physical presence is a requirement. So we're not going to be able to instantiate all of this sort of thing via a Philippine marriage certificate, marriage license. Well, I guess you get a license, and then with the license you're allowed to do it, and then once it's done you get a certificate. Okay, so a marriage certificate. So anyway, so that will be the way that it goes. And I think that that's going to work out pretty well. It's a great long-term solution as far as I'm concerned. Additionally, I'm also like a big fan of this company. I've been consulting for this company since I lived back in California, and I've known the CEO, and I've known a couple of his workers for approximately, because workers come and go. I've known the other investors and everything. It's a really good company. It's a telematics company. It's a monitoring and telemetry company that monitors fleets of trucks, effectively. Driver, drvr.co. So, let's see what we go. I think I saw. Mike, can you adopt me? Another Aussie. Very good. Mike, and thank you for the info. Shecky, you're very welcome. It is my version of accurate. Let me just say that. I'm sharing with you what I have to the best of my ability. I am probably, undoubtedly, coloring it, and due to my own bias and my own sort of needs for tourism to occur in my life here, I'm arguably making incorrect statements in some way or another. And so I apologize ahead of time for that, but I'm just sharing with you what I've gotten. And again, longstay.co.th, highly recommend you guys sign up for that if it's something that you, if you want this information sort of like regularly. The way that they labeled it for me is, okay, now you're on our mailing list. Now you're on our, what do you call those with it? Newsletter, basically. Now you're on our newsletter. Academy says, I'm wondering if and how this has been aligned with neighboring other ASEAN countries. So that's a great question. I have been a huge fan of the ASEAN group. So if you don't know, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Obviously, Academy does, but for some of you that don't know. Additionally, I'm also part of APEC, right? So this is Asia Pacific Economic Community. That is a very similar group of countries, but it is more, well, I guess financially focused, quite frankly, but economically focused, right? And so they have larger meetings. For example, President Trump showed up at the APEC meeting that they had in the Philippines several years ago. He does not show up at the ASEAN meetings, right? But in other words, ASEAN. It's kind of like saying EMEA, right, which is Europe, Middle East, Africa. So anyway, there was a lot of talk for a while, Academy, right, about the ASEAN visa, meaning that like if you have, or ASEAN passports. So if you're part of ASEAN, if you're from the Philippines or Vietnam, you can basically go in and out of these other countries, and you could potentially work there because of the agreement that they have. However, that really didn't get solidified excessively or accurately, I will say. That's my opinion. Because again, the economies of a lot of these countries are fairly different. I mean, just the GDP, for example, of Vietnam is still pretty low. There's a lot of upward mobility available to people in Ho Chi Minh City, but it's no Bangkok, right? And so anyway, That is what I know about ASEAN. Imagine if only X chartered flights a week, the majority will be from ASEAN countries. I would agree with you. I would agree. Your imagination seems to be quite believable, Aztec. I would agree. You can call the embassy and they will call you back with answers to questions you leave in a voicemail. Very, very cool. I assume you're talking about the Thai embassy, and I'm not quite sure whether you're from the United States or not, but that's good to hear. I never got a call back from the Thai Consulate General in Los Angeles. I left messages, but I never got a call back. When I wanted information, I had to call them, and basically it was usually from like 9 in the morning until noon. If they answered the phone, they would answer my questions, but I never got a call back. So it's good to hear that they're doing that now. Thai embassy, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Can you adopt me so I can get it? Absolutely, yeah, no worries. Just hide in my luggage, right? One big happy cool kids table. Oh my God, I've now got 4 children, including Mariana, which is good. It's always good to have someone who does podcasts in German. Yeah, right. By any means necessary. Yeah, I know. I mean, I get it. I think I've shared with you guys before. I mean, if I was, I feel like I'm really darn lucky, like ridiculously lucky. And but if I wasn't, and I hadn't made the decision last November to basically come over here, and I was still back in San Diego, and even if my job was delightful, I would probably want to get the heck out of there based on, not the news, but based on very, very good friends, not the least of which is my business partner who's in San Diego, telling me kind of like what's going on over there. Now in a town that I lived in, La Mesa, I lived in La Mesa for a while, and they burned down 2 banks, and the fire department was actually boarded up because they were afraid they were going to set it on fire, which is, there's a little bit of humor to that. The fire department was afraid that they would get caught on fire. I see that I'm jittering and that sort of thing, and I apologize for the video. This isn't going to be a very, very long live. No other reason than I know that my technical capacity is sort of imperfect. You're from Massachusetts, born and raised. Outstanding. Where do you live? I grew up on the South Shore. Went to UMass Boston. I know I've seen your name here before, and you may have answered it, but I apologize. I've slept since then, so I don't remember if you told us. But anyway, it's good to have you here, especially since it is. It's 8 in the morning there. Okay, so it's not so bad. It's 5 a.m. on the West Coast, so I don't anticipate a whole lot of Californians kicking it here with me, kicking it here with us. But again, Shecky, thank you. You're wicked pissa. Norton, we've talked for. All right, yeah. Again, I'm sorry. I apologize. But I recognize your name, so thank you very much for coming here. Norton, Mass. Wow. I don't think. Maybe I was there once. Can't remember. But yeah, there's only a finite number of towns in Massachusetts. That's for sure, right? We don't have towns really in We didn't have towns really in California. Pretty much every place is a city. But it was neat growing up in Massachusetts because you had cities, but then you had you smell it with well, no, we're kind of a town. And obviously it was based on the leadership, right? You had selectmen in towns, whereas you had different labels for the leadership in cities. But in any case, what really prompted me to, plates on, to flip the transmitter on here is because for the most part, I mean, it's like 7 p.m. So I'm kind of getting ready to have, quite frankly, milk and cookies and watch Netflix and just go to sleep because, for the most part, I like to wake up about 5 in the morning without the alarm as the sun is rising. And so therefore, I'll watch TV for an hour or two. And right now I'm binging on Suits, which I'm quite certain if any of you know that show, you know that, Mike, that's pretty old. But I like it, and I didn't realize they had 9 seasons. I think I only watched the first 5 with Gracie years ago when it kind of first came out on Amazon Prime, maybe? Anyway. So I watch Suits. I usually watch Suits when it's 7:05 p.m. in Thailand versus do live streams. But what really prompted me to do this was when I got that notification from Longstay, and they specifically mentioned 1, 2, 3 charter flights per week. So, you know, I mean, look, here's the deal. Even like the low-cost carriers over here in Southeast Asia, quite frankly, even sometimes they will have, you know, 3, 4, 3 seat layout, fairly large planes. I don't know if they'll have 777s, but you know, like where I'm from, where Sheki's from, you know, low-cost carriers over there pretty much for the most part have the 3 and 3, right? And they maybe have, I don't know, 50 rows maximum. You know, the A300, and they hold, well, certainly well south of 200 people. And so, I mean, again, you're not going to ship a whole bunch. Ah, that's correct. Got it. That's why. Yep, near Foxborough. Cool. Suits is that's pretty. Thank you very much. Suits is awesome. It's a very good show, and I also like your follow up. And Mike as well. He's Mike. I'm Mike's. Okay, right? I'm so amazing. I'm plural. So the one. I mean, again, you know, look at. It's Wednesday, okay, and this is traditionally the day that the plans that get instantiated prior to Tuesday. Tuesday they get voted on. Wednesday they sort of get discussed even more. And, you know, you got to hand it to the Thais for the way that they're dealing with this. Because, you know, I mean, again, you have various stages of maturity of any sort of organization and the leadership, right? So you have, you know, the entrepreneurial phase, right? Sort of the startup phase, that sort of thing. And then you mature, and eventually you get to a bureaucratic phase, right? And so that's organizations like universities and obviously government agencies, and it's very bureaucratic. Now, it doesn't mean that they're ridiculous and they all lie and they all cheat on their wives and they have, you know, right? But arguably, when you get to that phase, the ability to get results with the speed you got when you were in the entrepreneurial phase or the startup phase, primary entrepreneurial phase is really sort of the better description, which is, yeah, so I'm a coder, and oh yeah, I'm also the accountant, and so you need some checks, petty cash. Okay, that's awesome. No big deal. Oh, really? You want me to re-sign that lease? Okay, cool. Yeah, let me do that. Oh, and the toilets are backed up? All right, well, hold on. Let me take care of that. I mean, you take out the trash. I mean, I love people that are like, man, I want to work for myself. I can't wait to have my own business. And I'm like, okay, so I get it. Go for it. Just do not stop. Do not let me discourage you. Absolutely go for it. Learn what you can. Go through what you want to go through. It can be wildly rewarding. But what I always say is you got to take out the trash. The guy that owns the company, the girl that owns the company, you got to do the coding, you got to do the accounting, you got to do the HR, and you got to do the insurance and everything, and you got to take out the trash. And so anyway, I find that the bureaucracy that's over here, especially when it's coming up with something new. I mean, that's not, again, visas aren't anything new, okay? But the fact that they can kind of like turn this around, and because, I mean, look at 1 month ago, if we were having a live stream right now, what would we be talking about? We'd be like, oh man, October 1st, I'm going to be able to go to Phuket, and I'm going to be able to do this, and oh yeah, the Phuket plan, the Phuket project, and the Phuket, this is going to be great, but it's only these people, but I can probably fit into these guys. Done. And it's September 16th, right? So we're not even like, we're halfway through September, and this is already the second iteration of a plan to try and get tourists into Thailand. So I'm not saying other governments haven't been able to do stuff like this, but my sphere of vision right now is basically, you know, I'm inundated with Thailand information, regardless of whether I'm here or not. If I wasn't here, I would still be ingesting as much as I possibly could to try and get to a plan that'll work for me. And, you know, so anyway, I just wanted to say thanks, Thailand. I really appreciate it. I owe you a smoothie. Sheki says, have you heard what surrounding countries will be what what surrounding countries will be allowing people for the U.S. or other countries. So over in this part of the world, specifically to Thailand, I mean, they're being very Thai about it, which is basically they're not just coming out and saying no, you know, but I think the likelihood of of someone from the United States being able to get into this initial phase of a number of countries. I mean, it's not like you could get into Vietnam, or you could probably, well, you can get into Cambodia, actually. You can get into Cambodia. One of the guys that listens to the channel, he's doing that. And, but as far as Thailand goes, I mean, again, you know, it's rated. Ratings are, you know, what's the rating body, right? What are the specifications? What are the metrics that they're using to label something as #1? And Thailand has been labeled #1 as far as like dealing with COVID, the safest country, you know, that sort of thing. So anyway, you know, and Vietnam's a pretty good, certainly in the top 10 as well. So I can understand their bias and their reluctance, you know, to bring in people from that are in a country that, you know, I mean, again, but I mean, I understand it. Scientifically and logically, though, you got to say to yourself, okay, so like, let's say for the sake of argument, I get tested and I don't have COVID. And then I just sit around my house in Boston, in Norton, and then 15 days later, I go get another test. And I still don't have COVID. So I've effectively quarantined myself, okay? And then on that day, I take that test, which is the one that I need to go to the embassy, to go to the consulate in Boston, to go there and then get my butt on a plane and then get over to Thailand. And then I've got all the data and everything. I've got all of my paperwork. And they could be like, well, you know, I mean, really, it doesn't really matter where the hell you're from. Because in the last 2 weeks, you've potentially been exposed to it, but let's say you've quarantined yourself effectively, right? Now, I understand, obviously, you can get it on the plane, and that's why when you get over here, you probably also, if you haven't, I encourage you to watch some of the videos on YouTube here that guys have done describing their 14-day quarantine, specifically in Bangkok, specifically in Thailand, and they've also been good there. I mean, the process is, it is very efficient. It's sought after, I bet. At least the way I interpret it, it seems like they really got their act together. Let's just say that. And they seem to not only be providing like great medically proficient care, but also like there's some, you know, there's some emotional intelligence in these people. They've obviously gone through some degree of leadership training. You know, whether it's like 1 day or 1 week or whatever, they're like, okay, so there's going to be like this, there's going to be this need for compassion. Okay, so, you know, they've taken, it looks like they've taken, you know, bedside manner 101. It looks like they've actually taken 101 and 201 and 301 as well. And so that's very comforting, you know, because, you know, I can just imagine, you know, going through all these hoops and you get on the plane and you're all excited. I mean, any of us that have been to Thailand, before any of this happened, man, if you're anything like me, the minute you sit down in that seat, and ideally there's no one sitting next to you, but the minute you sit down in that seat, and then like he pulls back from the jetway, this is in the United States somewhere, and the plane takes off, I'm like, I don't care how long it takes. The minute I get out of that last plane, I am in Thailand, you know? And so, I mean, yes, it's exciting, and I can rarely sleep. I watch like 9 movies. I eat cookies and tea and all this stuff, you know, and I get really excited about coming to Thailand. And let's say I get here, and oh, yeah, the cabs aren't available, or they're jerks, or the buses aren't, you know, or there's a water main break, so whatever happens, it doesn't matter. I'm in Thailand. I mean, this is before. So I can imagine now you go through this whole thing, and you get here, and they do the test, and they're like, oh, my God. Like, you tested positive. Who were you sitting next to? And they test the guy that's sitting positive, and the guy next to you, like, gave it to you. Or the girl next to you gave it, you know, through no fault of their own, maybe. You know, I mean, I can imagine that would be a little bit disappointing. However, to be fair, if what's true, what's being said is that, look, dude, quarantine for 14 days. So even if you have the thing, and you quarantine for 14 days, apparently, as long as you're treated, you could potentially get over it and therefore not infect others. I don't know. But I do know that my experience with healthcare in Thailand is that it is freaking spectacular. I'm never distracted by the cost of it. I'm always impressed by their level of customer service. I'm talking about the actual doctor, but also the woman who basically checks me in and then escorts me around the facility with an iPad, making sure that I understand everything, who's completely bilingual. You know, so anyway. I think we all probably are aware of the quality of care that you get medically in Thailand. And so of all the places to go to be flying to because you like the beaches and that sort of thing, you know, the other plus one, right, is the fact that, like, they really got their act together medically. So I'm going to get some comments here, but we are at 50 minutes, which sounds about right for me. And it looks like I got about another 20 minutes on the battery. And so, I mean, you know, I'm on vacation, so I kind of want to, like, chill out. Anyone who's familiar with Thailand and has done their homework realizes that they change things on a dime. They do, which is, okay, so I like change. I mean, I know there's a statement like most people don't like change, and I always submit that, like, no, people don't like bad change. I mean, if the change is some guy knocks on my door and shows up with a briefcase full of $3 million, I'm more than okay with that change, and I would submit anyone who's ever said, I don't like change, they'd be great with that kind of change, and not physical change, obviously. That delta in behavior and monetary ability and resources, that would, I'm sure that kind of change would be welcomed. Thanks for doing your live chats, Mike. I have just split from my wife watching you. Wait, what? Andy, thanks for doing this live. Just split. I thought you meant like maybe. Okay, I gotta split. I gotta like go hang out. I'm really sorry, buddy. Watching your chats and vlogs keep my mind off it. 41, never been to Thailand, so I'm looking to get over when I can. Oh, dude, I'm so excited for you to go here. You know, a big hug for me, and I'm sure many other guys at the Cool Kids table as well. We are totally here for you, and yeah, good for you, man. I'm honored you admitted that. I appreciate your honesty, dude. That's, well, welcome to the Cool Kids table. That's all I'll say. Aztec says, I'm literally screwed until they open the whole world. If I can't get back to Australia at the drop of a hat, I can't go. 14-day quarantine there. I can guarantee I can sit there. 14 days once back would be a dent. Oh, because of work? Or, I mean, yeah. All right. And thanks, Cool Kids. Good. Yes. I have no doubt that many other guys, primarily, there's occasional females that drop in, but for the most part, I don't know if it's the He-Man Woman Haters Club. If you guys are my vintage or older, then you know what that Spanky's gang reference is in. The reference there, but yeah, I think we're all here for everybody, so that's kind of nice. I think Taiwan was labeled as very good. Yes, I believe that they were, and I know that Thailand was #1 in something. And again, I'm not sure what the metric was, but I'll tell you right now. I mean, yeah, Taiwan, they have their act together. You know, their GDP is higher, obviously, than here. You know, there's that whole kind of Chinese distraction that I completely can empathize with other people that are like, well, yeah, Thailand is like separate, you know, and they have their own sort of thing, and maybe they change things on a dime, or they make irrational decisions, or if you're not Thai, they don't, or, you know, the possible imperfections that occur over here. But you know, I mean, and so Taiwan, you know, they're more modern for sure. You know, and they've got their own imperfections over there too, but they do have their act together. I'll never forget my first flight to Thailand. I transferred through Taiwan, through Taipei. And I get off the plane, and, you know, I connect to the Wi-Fi, right? Now, I'm used to basically traveling. To that day, to 2013, I traveled to Bermuda. That was my international. I traveled to Canada, and I traveled to Mexico. If you're from the United States and you travel to Canada or Mexico, you're not doing a whole lot of international travel. I mean, quite frankly, there's more sort of international travel when you go to Hawaii. Because you walk to Mexico, walk to Canada kind of thing. And at the end of the day, I mean, Canada is just like a really cold United States where everyone's a lot friggin' nicer, and their money's colored. You know, it's got cute colors in it. It's got more than the 3 colors like ours does. And it's worth less. But anyway. I'm just sort of joking around. But yeah, I think you're right. I remember seeing that as well, Mariana. Thank you for that. Breathe the wife split. Chin up. Life continues. Can relate. Similar age to you. You'll love Thailand no matter where you're from. Great goal to have. Absolutely, dude. Let us know how we can help you. So 10 minutes battery die. Yeah, well, okay, so here's the thing. Like, I could actually, can you see it in the background? Yeah, you can see it over there. Okay, so there's my extension cord. So I absolutely could plug it in and that sort of thing. But again, I didn't have a whole lot to talk about tonight. I had one topic to talk about, so therefore, you know, I'm only gone 54 minutes. But to be fair, I'm interacting with you guys, you know, and again, it keeps me sane. It keeps me engaged. It keeps me happy. It keeps me focusing on the positive. It keeps me looking at solutions, because I know you guys are looking at solutions too. So again, cool kids table, right? So that's kind of cool. Yeah, leaving and running away from Thailand is one thing, but running my own business, yeah, I forgot you did. Yes, indeed, and you're doing everything. Something goes wrong back here, I need to just jump on a plane within 40 hours max. I get it. I used to travel quite a bit in the United States, and when like work would be like, well, we don't really think you can go to that convention. We got a big thing going on this weekend, or we got to be, you know, the blah 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 blah. You got to be here, and it took me years to convince them that, like, look, dude, here's why I am labeled a decent leader, because whether I am here or not, my guys either kick ass or they kick ass more when I'm not here. It's either as awesome as it is when I'm here, or better when I leave. Otherwise, my leadership needs to be in question. And, you know, my guys got this. And eventually it got to the point where it's like, well, where's Mike this, you know, winter break? Well, he's in Thailand for 6 weeks. Oh, my God, how can he do that and still run an IT organization? Come on. I mean, Jesus. Anyway, so I had these antiquated leaders that basically didn't believe. I seriously had the last CIO that was there was primarily the reason that I left. He literally used the phrase, if they're not at their desk, clearly they're not working. And this is IT, guys. This isn't like there's a chalkboard behind me and I'm using physical, like, whiteboards kind of thing, and I'm like displaying the calculus equations so that the students can observe them, you know, physically in my classroom. It's IT, right? That's like saying, oh my God, I can't believe all the servers are running. You're not physically in the data center. How is the air conditioning moving, you know, the delta in energy when you're not HVAC certified and you're not inside the data center? So anyway, but I also realized that when you own your own business, I owned my own business and I had to be there. I was living in San Diego and I was deploying my wireless internet service provider. I was a wireless internet service provider in San Felipe, Mexico. And I had guys down there that helped me, and they did installs, and I basically had 1099 employees. I mean, not literally, because of course they were Mexicans, but, you know, I had a guy call me and say, Mike, my internet's not working. Well, there's reason for that, because there was a layer 1 issue, meaning there's physical connectivity kind of thing. So I jumped in my Land Rover, and basically 4.5 hours later, going faster than I probably should have been, but I don't think I was being too reckless, got down there to his house. And, you know, I did a truck roll, as they say, basically in the IT, you know, sort of the technical, you know, B2C, you know. I mean, I had a customer and he could not get online and he was paying me to be able to get online. And so, yeah, I couldn't have just been in Texas. I couldn't have just gone to Austin for the weekend, you know. So trust me, 48 hours, I get it, dude. I get the 48 hours, I get the 4 hours, big time. And I honor you huge for having backbone and integrity to be able to do that. Because otherwise, I mean, again, you don't get customers too long. If you're like, oh yeah, but you know, Aztec, I mean, basically the guy like lives in Thailand on any day that ends in Y. Oh yeah, but we should totally keep paying him because he's a great business. You know, right? I mean, so obviously you're awesome, dude. So good for you. That's totally cool. That's the church. My whole family's Canadian, and God, they're the nicest people on the planet, dude. I mean, so I go over to Canadian Embassy, right? And for the most part, embassies, they're fairly process, procedure related or whatever. I go over there, right? And shocker, and I don't have an appointment. I'm just there to like make sure I know where to go, where do I sign up, where do I sign in, what do I do with my appointment, where do I go afterwards, how do I get escorted, what sort of IDs do I have are needed, where do I put my stuff, do you guys have big lockers, can I bring my laptop with me or will it not fit, because I know I can't bring electronics in there. Anyway, so I'm prepping, I'm doing all this stuff. I get there, and I'm looking around, and I asked somebody, and I said, yeah, you know, I'm Canadian Embassy, whatever. So this guy, naturally, in a red shirt, red polo, right, runs out. And of course, as I'm walking towards the lobby, right, off to the left, what's there? Tim Hortons, the donut place. I mean, it was awesome. Anyway, so this guy, he not runs, but he like walks over briskly and he says, "Oh, you looking for the Canadian Embassy?" I said, "Yeah. I just want to make sure that like I know where everything is and I know where to go because obviously there's going to be a security check and just want to make sure I have everything. Like, do I wear a belt or do I not wear a belt?" In the United States, for example, if you go to our embassies, at least when I had been there, my Land Rover actually, so because I was in Tijuana and I had to go to the embassy. And I had, one of those keys, right, for your car. And there's no like actual like sometimes there was like a little physical key for like if you have a valet take care of it or something. But for the most part, it's just a physical piece of electronics. And I couldn't bring that into the embassy. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to lock my car. How do I get in? And they're like, you can't bring any electronics in. Can't bring your phone. Can't bring your thing. And I had to like I had an extra one that had like the actual physical key, so I could like unlock the door and set the alarm that way too. But of course I never used that. I just went beep beep. Or it was like proximity when you touch your thumb. Well, I had to break the physical key off and then hide this silly thing inside of the truck and then manually lock the thing. And so that's how I went to this. So my point is that there's rules for every right. But anyway, so he goes, "Are you here?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm here." And he goes, "Oh," he said, "Well, we've had a couple of delays or something." At the end of the day, he thought I was probably there for an appointment at that time and was incredibly gracious and apologetic that they couldn't take me right now. And I said, no, I don't have an appointment. I have an appointment for like next Wednesday or next Thursday or something like this. And he said, "Oh," and this was like Thursday or Friday or something. I said, "Yeah, so it's like for next week, like next Wednesday or Thursday." He's like, "Oh, well, can you come back on Monday?" And I'm like, you guys are just so nice. I mean, it was just amazing. And then I finally went there for my appointment. I didn't have the proper documentation. Now, if you've ever been to the U.S. Embassy, occasionally they will get a little bit flexible, but for the most part, they're pretty rigid. So if you give them all the documentation, and for whatever reason some of the documentation you give them is wrong, or it's incomplete or whatever, they're like, "Nope, sorry." They send everything back, and they don't refund your money. So I get up to the Canadian, and he's like, no, you're going to need the original document for this one. And I'm like, okay, dude, like I was born in 1968. So you want me to go find a 52-year-old piece of paper that you believe has more validity than the one that I will print from the information that is already in your database and then sign it and hand it to you as an affidavit saying that, like, yeah, I got to have the original. Okay. And I said, all right, well, so what do I do? He's like, oh, no, just log into the website and just change your appointment from today to tomorrow. I'm like, well, no, but I already made my appointment for today. He's like, oh, no, don't worry about that. You can just make an appointment for whenever you'd like. So I didn't have to pay any extra money. I just like logged into the website once I got home, changed the appointment that I had already basically been to like 3 weeks later and showed up. And, of course, it was amazing. I walk in and again, he's just like, oh, sir, welcome back. I'm like, okay, I get it. Bald guy, right? But anyway. Oh, stuck. Oh, good question. Where next after Co? Krabi. Logan, I'll be down in Krabi, and I'm going to be down there for a week, basically Sunday through Saturday. On that Saturday, I am scheduled to fly back to Bangkok, but I'm thinking what I'm going to do, because there's no like real extra charge. I'm going to rent a car from the Krabi airport, and then I can actually drop it off at the Phuket airport. And there's no, it's no more than renting a car for like 4 or 5 days. And then or maybe like for 2 days I'll rent it, and then I'm going to drive like up over the, is it the Gulf that's there, technically? What's between Krabi and, anyway, the water. I'm going to drive over the north and then down into Phuket, maybe. I haven't decided. So that's not really an island, but it is another location. I am absolutely coming back to Koh Phangan. I love it here, guys. It is just so, like I said, every morning I wake up and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll try another place. And then I walk to the front desk. I'm like, nah, here's another 700 baht. And, of course, the last 2 days, they're like, well, how about 650? I'm like, twist my arm. Sure. Yeah, you got this whole beach thing, bungalow thing going on. I'll definitely save 50 baht. Go for it. Always great to see you, Stuck. I love when you come by, buddy. Really, really appreciate it. And, obviously, as do many others, we got a whole bunch of... whole bunch of love going on. Hit that like for Mike. It should be called the Mike button, quite frankly. This whole like button, that's just so generic. It should be called the Mike button. Not that I have any ego invested in this, of course. Thanks, Shecky. Appreciate it. Senor Frank, one of the last great hurdles, milestones of being a business owner is getting to a point where you do not have to actively manage the efforts of your employees. Absolutely, dude. I was so honored. My guys and gals, but I refer to them all as guys, rock stars. Absolute 110% at 80 miles an hour. Never give up. 100% uptime. None of this 4.9s, 5.9s. Let me tell you something right now. If you're a student going to a university and you're paying $50,000 a year, and your IT department says, well, you know, we've got 5.9s of reliability when you're offline, students don't give a crap about 3.9s, 4.9s, 5.9s. It's a binary discussion. It's either on or off. If YouTube stopped working right now, nobody's like, well, let me look at, the terms of service. They basically say they're going to be available 99.99% of the time. So I'm totally in acceptance of, no, it's 100% uptime, dude. 110%, 80 miles an hour. And I loved my guys. It's the ability that I have the ability to talk to you today, right now, because 7 years ago they said, Mike, go on vacation. What do you need from us ahead of time? And we prepared for 2 months before I left. And the reason we knew how to do that is because 2 months before this one guy that was incredibly important, Zach, and he was and I had a small team, so it's like a lot of people, unfortunately, we didn't, they weren't single points of failure. We referred to them as single points of success. But there wasn't a whole lot of backup. There wasn't a whole lot of overlap. We just did not have the resources for it, and that was a challenge, as it is, I'm sure, in many of your organizations. But nonetheless, Zach was really important. Zach was going to get married. And I said to the team in a meeting one time, I said, guys, here's the deal. Zach's getting married. A few of us have been invited. Obviously, he's going to get married, and then he's going to go on a honeymoon. He's going to go to, like, Kauai, or he's going to go to, somewhere in Hawaii. He's going to have a romantic time. Here is the most important thing we can do for the next 2 months. Make sure this organization runs, whether Zach is here or not. I want him to be able to go on vacation for 2 weeks. And everyone was on board because they literally worked with him. Like, I was the manager, so I was outside. And of course, I'm sure that there was chatter about, decisions that I made that they disliked or whatever. That's supposed to occur. It's healthy. And but they also brought solution to the team as well as me. And this guy, so that's what we worked on. And he didn't get one call. I said, look, here's the deal. It's going to have to be a global pandemic before it's going to have to be a really friggin' big deal for us to call Zach. And we got to make sure that this thing runs without him. And, it was actually probably tougher for him to let go and not feel like, without him, like it really can't run. And I get that. He's engaged in it, but there's, of course, ego in everybody, right? But the neat thing about that process, and I certainly didn't set out to do it that way. I had no idea I was ever going to go to Thailand when we went through that iteration. But by the time I was getting ready to go to Thailand, and people are like, okay, well, you're leaving for 3 weeks, and then you're going to go to Maui for a week, so you're basically going to be gone for a month or whatever. Oh, my God, no one's ever taken a month vacation in a row. And, it worked, and it worked. So it worked for 4 weeks, and then it worked for 5 weeks, and then it worked for 6 weeks. And then the longest I've ever gone away from my job in any given contiguous amount of time was 6.5 weeks. It's the reason I got my first visa, my first long-stay visa, because I'm like, man, I'm in no mood at day 25 to go to immigration and extend it for another week. I'm just going to get a 1-year multiple entry visa, and every time I stamp it, I'm good for 90 days. I'm in no mood to do anything else. Dana, good to see you, buddy. You guys, if you don't know Dana is the host and originator of Bangkok Strange. I'm honored to be the co-host, and he and I have a live stream tomorrow night at this time, which means I will once again be incredibly tired talking to Dana. King Leeway, good to see you, buddy. Welcome back to the Cool Kids Table, my friend. You've been doing, God, you do a video or I think you do a live stream every day, don't you? Good for you. Whoops, sorry. Thank you for all the information. Oh, sure, Ronald. Yeah, again, if you have any specific questions. Well, if you have any specific questions relative to your own individual needs that I may not be able to assist with, let me just throw that out there. But feel free to email livemyassoff@gmail.com, and I will do my best to try and put you in the right direction. If you guys don't know Dana, he's actually lived here for, I want to say, 6 years, Dana, is that right? When I worked at telecom, they were all about 5'9". Yeah. I got no use for that. As far as I'm concerned, 5'9" is about as sexy as 9'5". It's binary, dude. It's either on or off. It's either on or off. And if it's off, bad news bears. I used to tell my guys, here's what the way it works with ACH, which is, automated clearinghouse. Here's the way it works with the organization that you work for and the way that you get your checks. You either get paid or you don't. So, knowing that, you get paid to keep this stuff working 105% of the time, so that you will get paid 100% of the time. If you don't, then I need you to help me understand why you think you should get 100% of your salary. And they bought in on it. I mentioned it one time. No one invited me back to the uptime meeting. Yeah, well, again, Dana and I get each other. My favorite interviewer extraordinaire. Oh, yeah, Dana? Yeah, he's good, right? Oh, hey, before I forget, Dana told me that 2 people ordered Bangkok Strange, I believe it was a t-shirt and a mug. Is that right, Dana? So if any of you guys did that, I thank you so much, because, again, it's a living document, if you will. It is a work in progress, but at the end of the day, there is a Bangkok Strange initiative to effectively support a village. We refer to it as the Hill Tribe because they're a tribe in a hill. We're pretty creative that way. To improve the quality of their life, to improve the quality of their education, to improve the quality of their future, to improve their options. Not to necessarily make them happier, trust me. Because I was really excited that I got a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and I got a really important job and I made a ton of money and I had a ton of responsibility and I was unhappy. So there's not a happy medium, but there's a happy availability. And so we're going to hopefully open that up to them with your help. Great channel, nonstop guests, terrific community. King Leeway, yeah, I completely agree. Unfortunately, I don't have time to watch it. They don't have coffee on the island? They do not. I went for coffee this morning. I had a really good mocha at this place. They make their own bagels, and it was really interesting. These bagels, I swear, dude, it was like fresh French bread in the form of a bagel with like sesame seeds on it. It was one of the best bagels I ever had in my life. And so, you ready for this? So she says, oh, well, do you want like butter or something? And I said, well, do you have cream cheese? No, I don't have cream cheese. Okay, so butter's fine. And I said, can you toast it? And she said, well, we just made them. So, I mean, they're already warm. And I'm like, absolutely. Nice, good answer. I will have one of those, please. And it was literally one of the best bagels I ever had. Because at the end of the day, it basically, tasted like brand new, not secondhand. Warm French bread in the form of a donut, effectively. So therefore, it got my attention. It was excellent. 8 years, that's right. Options are great, buddy. And we were born, or certainly, I won't speak with anybody else, but I was born with a boxcar full of options. So I didn't take advantage of all of them. So it's good to give people that opportunity. Alberto, how are you doing? Buenas noches, amigo. So about the 100% of the salary, let's say we all come to work for you for a specific amount of money. Would you pay us 50% of the salary if we only deliver 50% of the results? I would love such a job. No. If you, you don't know me, but I understand where you're going with that. It's a fair response. But no, it wasn't a sliding scale. That's my point to the discussion, is it's very binary. It's either 100% of freaking outstanding, or you're basically, I might need to share you with the competition kind of thing. I may not fire you, but I might share you with the competition. I just got a notification that my battery's going to die, and so with that said, I want to say thank you guys for keeping me sane, sober, happy, and energetic, and engaged in the Cool Kids Table. Thank you so much for coming by. It's Mike's for LiveMyAssOff.com saying I hope you're living the dream, because if you're not living the dream, there's a high likelihood that you don't even know who that Dana guy is. But if you tune into Bangkok Strange tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Bangkok time,